Hi, my name is Jared Hartman. I am a small business owner located in Orlando, Florida. I wanted to make a video today to review some basics about bookkeeping and some basics about small businesses. So I did want to read a statement. This video is for information purposes only. It does not provide legal, accounting, or tax advice. The content of this video is for information purposes only and should not be considered legal, accounting, or tax advice, or a substitute for obtaining such advice specific to your business. Additional information and exceptions may apply. Applicable laws may vary by state or locality. No assurance is given that the information is comprehensive in its coverage or that it is suitable in dealing with a client's particular situation. SMB Bookkeeping LLC does not have any responsibility for updating or revising any information presented herein. Accordingly, the information provided should not be relied upon as a substitute for independent research. SMB Bookkeeping LLC does not warrant that the material contained herein will continue to be accurate, nor that it is completely free of errors when published. Viewers should verify statements before relying on them. The views expressed during the video are solely those of the individual involved in creating the video and does not represent those of any brand or employees. So I did want to review some basics about small businesses and specifically setting up small businesses, which does tend to include an LLC. There tends to be a legal side of setting up the LLC and a tax side of setting up the LLC. It is always recommended to reach out to a local legal professional if there's any additional questions about setting up an LLC. It's also recommended to reach out to a licensed tax professional such as myself through SMB Bookkeeping LLC, who can also help with the LLC questions, including the tax side of those LLC questions. For small and medium-sized businesses, there are over 36.2 million small businesses in the United States, making up 99.9% of all businesses. They account for 45.9% of private sector employment and 43.5% of the national GDP. In Florida specifically, there are approximately 3.49 million small businesses, which drive 99.8% of all state businesses and employ nearly 3.8 million people. Additionally, there are, again, 36 million plus small businesses in the U.S., 62 million plus employees. Payroll, small businesses pay nearly 39% of total private sector payroll. Job creation, small business generates roughly 9 out of 10 every new jobs nationally. That's a big statistic there, 9 out of every 10. Generally what we'll see is the business owner will set up the business in the first year or two. They'll go through the process of establishing the bookkeeping process, establishing an LLC. And typically in the by the second year, the additional employees will begin to be hired. The small businesses tend to have a higher rate of not being successful. I think 3 out of every 5 small businesses don't make it past 3 to 5 years. So typically by that second year, we tend to see if the business is going to have revenue and if it's going to have an ongoing concern for the foreseeable future. I did go to university for a business degree with a major in economics. So I do have a bachelor's degree in economics. In my opinion, small businesses are the most important. Small and medium-sized businesses are by far the most important sector of the economy. I love working with small and medium-sized businesses and the business owners. I have a tremendous amount of respect and love for the small and medium-sized business owners that I do work with. I do hope that that comes across in the work that I do. Small business owners tend to be up before the sun, 4 or 5 a.m., working all day long. It's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. It's a lot of hard work. They tend to be working to build a business. They tend to be working for their families. It tends to be a bit different than just punching that time clock, maybe on the factory floor, on the warehouse floor. I do love working with small and medium sized businesses and business owners. It's really why I like being a bookkeeper and a licensed professional. So here I have an article that I tend to review with many small businesses. I would say that I've worked with approximately 10,000 small and medium-sized businesses in the past 14 years or so, almost 15 years. Nearly all of those small businesses tend to have the same questions. How do I set up my bookkeeping? What's the difference between a debit and a credit? How am I going to separate my personal and business finances? What are the basics for an LLC? What are the business structures? Again, it is always recommended to reach out to a local legal professional if there's any additional questions. However, basic information for an LLC can be reviewed here in this article from QuickBooks Online. What is the corporate veil and what happens if you pierce it? When you establish a company by forming a limited liability company, an LLC, or corporate entity, you are creating a separate legal entity. Here, the article goes into a little bit more detail about how the LLC is separating the personal and business assets of the business owner. Business assets are reported on the balance sheet report. Typically what we'll see is once an LLC is set up, the next step is to get an EIN, which there's a very helpful website that walks you through that process. Then once we have an LLC and EIN, the business is able to go to the bank. Typically we'll see that business checking account will get opened up. Oftentimes there will be $10 in the account, not a large amount in the beginning, but we will have that business bank account set up. Once we have the business bank account set up, we'll sync that to the bookkeeping software, and then we can begin reporting the balance sheet and the business assets on the bookkeeping report. And really what we're reviewing here is we want to separate the personal transactions from the business transactions. Oftentimes one of the main challenges that new small business owners run into is they'll commingle the funds. They'll have business and personal transactions in the business account, business and personal transactions in the personal account, and working with the bookkeeper is really a good process of establishing a professional way of keeping the books and separating the personal and business assets. Here, the corporate veil, if we're not separating those personal and business assets, if we are commingling the funds, personal and business funds, then we'll see the corporate veil is pierced, and it's going to diminish the benefits of that. Again, certainly a good article to review. And of course, if there are any additional questions, very helpful to review with a local tax professional. Setting up the LLC typically is filling out 1 to 2 forms. Oftentimes at the top of the form, it'll ask what's your name. The next line will be the address of the business, and then we'll see name and addresses for business owners. Tends to be fairly standard, 1 to 2 pages. And once the LLC is set up, many accountants, many bookkeepers are able to help out with that 1 to 2 page form. There are many websites and softwares out there these days. LegalZoom.com is a common website. Many softwares, AIs can fill out that 1 to 2 page form or really help the business owner fill that out for no cost, little to no cost, or many bookkeepers and accountants are able to help with that for no charge to help get that those 1 to 2 page documents completed. So here's some helpful information. Once the LLC is set up, there are some tax considerations to review. It is recommended to review with a professional licensed tax advisor. Myself, SMB Bookkeeping, LLC, I am licensed. I am able to help with the business structures and those type of questions, those types of items. I have worked with approximately 10,000 or so businesses over the last 15 years, and I would say each of those businesses, the bank account, the LLC, setting up the books, the basics, getting everything set up was included in that conversation. So fairly standard items, fairly basic. Here for business structures, we see when beginning a business, you must decide what form of business entity to establish. Your form of business determines which income tax return forms you have to file. The most common forms of business are the sole proprietorship, partnership, corporation, and S corporation. A limited liability LLC is a business structure allowed by state statute. Legal and tax considerations enter into selecting a business structure. So for the first two, sole proprietorship and partnership, these are the defaulted tax structures. So when the business is set up, perhaps before even any forms are filled out, if the business has one owner, it's a sole proprietorship. If the business has more than one owner, it's a partnership. Sole proprietorship often will be referred to as a disregarded entity, and that means it's disregarded for tax purposes from the business owner. So though it is a separate business entity, it's disregarded for tax filing purposes and included with the personal return of the business owner. Once, typically what we'll see is once the business is set up, the business has that revenue, and we'll start to have, the business owner typically will have questions about corporate elections. So once the LLC is in place, a business owner can elect the C corporation or the S corporation structure. C corporations tend to be Fortune 500 companies listed on stock exchanges. For example, Nike, Coca-Cola, McDonald's, those large Fortune 500 corporations everybody's heard of. Whereas small and medium-sized businesses oftentimes will be advised and will seek the S corporation structure for many reasons, that it would be good to review on a one-on-one consultation with a licensed tax professional, such as myself, through SMB Bookkeeping LLC, for example. There is also some helpful information here for limited liability companies. If we open up that link, it'll go into basic information for an LLC. Again, if there are additional legal questions, it's always best practice to contact a local legal professional. Again, many accountants and bookkeepers are able to help out with filling out that 1 to 2 page form. Typically, it'll ask for a name at the top. Below that, it'll ask to confirm the address, name and address of the business owners. And an LLC, business owners are referred to as members. And there's some additional information here for disregarded entities and the elections for C corporation and S corporation. So very good information, fairly basic as well. So I did want to also review some basics for bookkeeping. Once those basics are reviewed, as far as setting up the LLC, setting up the business bank account. Once the LLC is set up, the business is able to open the business checking account. Once the business checking account is open, we're able to connect it, sync it to the QuickBooks Online software. QuickBooks Online is the #1 software for small and medium-sized businesses. Before that, it was QuickBooks Desktop. I used to work all day long in QuickBooks Desktop before they came out with the QuickBooks Online version. Certainly a lot of data entry, which is nowadays is completed by artificial intelligence and the software itself. However, once the books are set up, once we have the business bank account connected to the third-party QuickBooks Online software, it's the data will start syncing. It's after the fact data, which just means that the financial institutions, the bank accounts, the banks and the credit card companies, their security teams write the software that shares the data with the third-party software, with the QuickBooks Online software. So it's historical. It's transactions that have already taken place will begin to sync to the software, and the business bank account is able to be reported on the balance sheet report. And again, the balance sheet is where the business is going to report those business assets. So we wouldn't want, for example, personal assets reported on the balance sheet report. That would be piercing the corporate veil. Having business and personal transactions on either the business account or the personal account would also be commingling funds and would be also piercing the corporate veil. And then once we sort of have a professional bookkeeping process set up, then it's certainly a good item to review those business structures one-on-one in a consultation with a licensed tax professional, with a licensed tax advisor. Here in QuickBooks Online, we'll see the test account. If we scroll down, we can select QuickBooks Online Advanced. That'll open up the test account. And I'll prove I'm not a robot, even though QuickBooks Online effectively is a robot. And we'll open up that test drive account. So this will be a practice account. We can make changes, use features, set things up. And then when we close it, it will reset. And then the next time we visit the website, we can open the same company up as a test drive again, but it won't have those changes that we made. So when we do set up the new QuickBooks Online account, this gear icon is very helpful to review. And we'll see accountant settings. They do tend to change these selections from year to year. But here's where we'll add that business name, business address, email address for the business or the business owner, that point of contact, phone number, website, industry. Here we'll add the legal business name once the LLC is approved. Typically 7 to 10 days the business will receive confirmation, and they'll receive the articles of organization, articles of incorporation, confirming the business structure has been created. There will be a seal there, typically from the state Secretary of State, and we'll be able to add that business name. Once we have the LLC set up, the business owner is able to visit the irs.gov website for EIN setup. It's about a 15-minute process. I do recommend having a review with a tax professional or your local legal professional before completing the EIN setup. There are a few questions there that you want to make sure we're checking the right boxes. It takes about 10, maybe 15 minutes though, and we can add that there once that's available. Here, so we'll also have the business type or structure that's able to be reviewed, and the legal address for the business. Here on the left side, we'll see accounting and bank transactions. This is where we can set up, where we can link or connect or sync the business bank accounts and checking accounts. So we can select here, drop down, link account. That'll take us to the login. We can select our bank, Bank of America or Wells Fargo or another bank. Then it'll allow the business owner to securely enter login information there. Again, it's the bank and credit card companies, their software departments write the software that shares the data with the bookkeeping software. So it's after the fact. for example, transfers can't be initiated or completed. It would all be historical data. So data that typically, transaction data that for transactions typically that took place in the last 12 to 24 hours. And then once those accounts are connected, we'll see the transactions here. We have pending, posted, and excluded. Pending here just means the transactions have synced from the bank or the credit card institution. Posted means that they've been reviewed and they've been posted to the ledger. Ledgers began being kept in the mid 1500s by Italian ship merchants and monks. So double entry bookkeeping does use ledgers. There's debits and credits on the ledgers. So we'll see here, for example, transactions are posted on the left and the right side. Once those transactions are posted to the ledger, they'll show up on the reports and in the ledgers and lists in the bookkeeping and accounting software. Excluded are for transactions that are duplicates typically. In the first several years, 5 or 10 years, QuickBooks Online was syncing transactions. It was very common to have duplicate transactions that can simply be excluded here. However, that's very rare these days that there's a duplicate transaction. So typically we'll see pending and posted. Once a transaction is posted, we'll be able to run a report here, standard reports. And we can run the two most common reports, which is the profit and loss report, which is going to show us our 12-month accounts. So these accounts are transactions that take place between midnight on January 1st of the year and December 31st, midnight at the end of the year. All those 12-month transactions will be included here. This year to last month. And those transactions will be included here. At the very bottom, we'll have net income. So for example, negative $1,850.13. And then when we run a balance sheet report, we'll see all of those posted transactions. The balance sheet is a live report. So it's all of the historical data up to the date the reports ran. For example, if we select similarly this year to last month, we'll see the live checking and savings balances on this date, April 30th, 2026. And if we scroll down to the bottom, we'll also see the net income, $1,850.13, which agrees here. So effectively, those 12-month of transactions on the P&L, they roll up into the balance sheet there. So really, we can see all the accounts here on the balance sheet. It's also why when we run a report for a trial balance, what we'll see is, it'll take just a moment for this to load. We'll scroll down to for my accountant, and we'll see trial balance. So if we select trial balance, what we'll see is the trial balance includes this month to this year to last month. The trial balance includes the profit and loss and the balance sheet. It puts the profit and loss on top, puts the balance sheet on bottom. And the reason all the debits and credits equal out are because we roll that P&L into the balance sheet there. So the trial balance is helpful because that's going to show us our debits and our credits. So it's the P&L, or rather it's the balance sheet on top, the P&L on bottom, and it shows us, for example, assets or a debit balance, liabilities or credit balance, revenues or credits, and debits or expenses. So those are some of the basics that 99.9% of businesses have as far as questions go, and so, certainly a video that I've been wanting to record for a while and post. And I hope that someone found some value to the video. And certainly, if there are any additional questions, always recommend to reach out to a local professional, one way or the other. Small and medium-sized businesses certainly are a very large portion of the economy. Very important. So there's a lot of businesses out there. There's a lot of businesses that are starting every year, every month, and a lot of new business owners with a lot of new questions. So thanks for watching the video. Hope you have a nice day.